Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Single 3 podcast, where we talk about mental health and first responders. I'm your host, Robert Burns, and today we have Zach. How are you doing today, Zach?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Doing all right. We are glad to have you on the podcast today, Zach. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to talk about these issues that virtually nobody does. How long were you in corrections with the state?
About 3 years, on and off.
Okay. Are you still in corrections?
I am.
Okay. We talked. You aren't with the state now. You're with county, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. We won't disclose what county or whatever. So, have you ever served in the military?
I have not.
Okay. Have you ever been diagnosed with any mental health issues before corrections?
Yes. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression at a very young age.
Okay. What do you think is the hardest thing for a new CO to learn?
Honestly, how to say no. Because
Yeah.
you can turn a no into a yes, but you can't turn a yes into a no when you're dealing with inmates.
Yep. That's the biggest thing we talked about with Zimmerman. Yeah, or as we tell people all the time, you can go from being an asshole to apologize, but you can't apologize going to being an asshole.
Absolutely.
And people don't understand that you have to learn that word no. And people are going like, "Oh, well, I'll see. Well, I'll see. No, tell them no. They know they can't. Plain and simple." What do you think your greatest accomplishment within corrections was? I mean, just as an officer.
I feel like my greatest accomplishment is yet to come, but one thing I've done so far is I've not given up. I've left institutions, and I've went to different places, and I've done corrections, but I've not given up. I've continued this career path.
Yeah, that's a good thing because a lot of people give up. I mean, I gave up, but we know that incident. But yeah, it's hard. It's different
Considering your circumstances, it's completely understandable.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't to the DRC.
Yeah.
That was so. So you didn't separate yourself from the corrections field, but what was the main reason why you separated yourself from PCI? I mean, we know there was an incident in there, but was it mental health related for you?
Actually, not with PCI. I had to separate myself from PCI because of an isolated incident that took place. Had to improve on a couple of things before I went back into corrections. Right after that,
Mm-hmm.
It was not mental health related.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I understand completely. Trying to think here. How were you told in the institution how to deal with mental health?
Well, we were actually given a phone number, and this would be upon request thing. You would have to go and search yourself. Like, if you needed help, you would have to go to your supervisors and actually get that phone number. And this phone number was like a hotline where you would speak to another individual on the phone who was there to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah. I was actually I didn't ask for the number. I was actually told to call the number. So, and as I've said before, I talked to Zimmerman before. He was one of the ones that told me to call the number, and so did Captain Deddy. So, when I heard that, and my family also told me, hey, you need to do something. I'm like, and I didn't even notice it. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Did you separate work life from home life very well, or I don't know if you're married or if you're dating or whatever. So
I actually struggled to separate home and work life. Um, there would be things that happen inside of prison because it is not normal. Prison, let's face it, is not normal. It's not a normal way to live. When you work there, you become accustomed to how things happen in there. So a lot of incidents will happen. You'll see stuff that you're not supposed to see, and you'll have to come home and try to forget about that. But with me, I didn't forget about that. I would think about that a lot. I would think about different situations, what I would have done differently, how I should have handled it, and if I did enough. So I did not separate home and work life very well.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, everybody has their own different ways, and I talked to an officer that's here in London. I talked to a police officer, and I just asked him generally, what kind of uses of force do you have? And he goes, very minimal. He says 9 times out of 10 people just cuff up. He said, but may have one like a week. And I asked him, I said, how often do you deal with drugs? He says, I deal with more domestic than anything, as we joke about what we have in the institution. We call them, domestics. And he said that he deals with more of your, small drugs like marijuana, but if it's a meth, it's an OD. And I told him, he goes, well, how much do you deal with drugs inside the institution? I said, every day. And his jaw just dropped. Like he could.
Especially tune.
Oh yeah, tune is so bad. Like people don't understand, and they're like, "What is tune?" And I'm like, "It's just bug spray," and they smoke it, and they're going like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they get so desperate they actually take the glue traps of the bugs and they actually smoke the glue, and they're going like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." People are stupid.
You have to try to cuff one of these guys up while they're running naked on the yard, or they're puking all over the bathroom and swimming in the puke. And
oh my gosh, I was there for that when the guy that jumped off the top bunk and thought his puke was a pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
He thought he was at like Disney World or something. Like he was not there.
Yeah, so my first incident was in 2020, and I was in the mailroom. And I heard a medical, and I heard a signal 3, and they said it got a guy high on tune. So I went out to the yard, and I wanted to see what happened. So I went down. This guy was an A2. He went coming out streaking, right? He come out running, went down to the second mezzanine. There was a guy down at the end with a cane. He literally jumped off the second mezzanine to the ground, landed on the guy, broke both his legs, and still tried to stand up. And I was just like, and that's when I understood what the power of tune was. And that's when it was like, okay, this is reality.
You know what? When I got hired in at Pickaway, during the interview, I asked if they housed any RTU inmates, which were the residential treatment units, the mentally ill.
Yeah.
They said no, but we have quite a few tune cases. I'm like, what is tune? Because I didn't deal with tune a lot at CRC, given that it was just a reception center, and you really didn't see that a lot.
Right.
And they threw that story at me. And I'm like, you know what? It sounds a little exaggerated, but I'll take their word for it.
That's a popular story.
That's more than 2 months in to the job, and I'm already seeing it.
Yep. The story I just told you is the one they told you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's. I thought it was BS too, but I'm the one that witnessed it. I thought, damn, this dude thinks he's Superman.
Didn't they spray him? Didn't they spray him with Fox or something?
They sprayed him with. Well, we didn't have Fox at that time. We still had Saber, and Robo actually was an officer at that time on first shift, and he came down with a pepper pellet gun. And that's when I knew it was getting serious. Because him and only one other person that was in there at that time, I don't know. Were you there when Berger was there? The one that was the officer up at the cafeteria before Montgomery took it over.
Um, I think I was there for the ass end of his stay.
So he left and went up to the women's institution in Marysville,
Yeah.
and he ORW, and he went ahead and he's a lieutenant now. And I'm not kidding you. He was the one that trained me how to cuff, how to do pat downs. So everything I taught you, he taught me. So, I like when I tell people stuff, they're like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about," and I'd send them up to him. They'd be like, "Going, he just told me the same thing." I'm like, "Okay, I'm not an idiot." Like, there was a girl that came in. I can't remember what her name was, and she came in. I don't know, like a little bit before I left, and she came from Madison, and she was want to wear a ball cap all the time. She's kind of butchy looking.
Yes.
You know,
I know who you're talking about.
So she came out me on the yard. She goes, "Yeah, I used to be SRT certified, and I know this. Yeah, I see bloods out here and heartless felons. What are you guys gonna do? Fight?" And I was like, I stopped for a minute here, and I'm like, heartless felons and bloods literally linked together in institutions. And the way she was talking, there was no way that she was STG certified. Like, there is no way. And I mean, I wasn't STG certified, but I paid attention to what went on, and I could tell on my unit by how drugs were running. And she came down to my unit. She told me I was full of shit. And I was like, really? So I let her look at my black book, because you remember the black book I carried around, right?
Yeah.
So I let her look at my black book, and she goes, "These guys ain't doing that." And I said, "Watch for a couple days." So she went in, she came down with me for a couple days, and she started seeing it. She goes, "Oh, my God, you're right." I said, "Yeah." I said, most of these guys, like, people don't understand. So I had, in C1, the highest ranked Cincinnati white boy in the institution, and he wasn't even STG'd.
Yeah, they will lay low under the radar. You will not know who they are. Those top guys, you will never know who they are.
Yeah, and she sat there, she goes, "Yeah, but the guys that always have the most," I said, "those are the runners." I said, "Find a guy in here that's labeled STG that is not doing a damn thing, that has a lot at his unit." I said, "that is not a sergeant or a lieutenant in his, in his gang." I said, "Find somebody that's a shot caller, or find somebody, that's the main guy, the lead in the pod." I said, "and tell me if he has anything by his bed." He will have nothing. He will have the minimal. All his shit will be at other people's bunks.
Yeah.
And she didn't understand the way I ran mine. And I went ahead and told her, that if I find drugs, instead of shaking the guys down across, if they keep on smoking weed or doing whatever, instead of shaking them down, I'll go shake the guys down across from them. And she's like, "Why do you do that?" I said, "Because now I got these other 4 guys that are pissed off these 4 guys across." I said, either A, they're going to get their asses handed to them tonight, especially concerning I just shook down a lifer, and they got their shit all messed up, and I'm going to come back and that shit won't be there. And 9 times out of 10, that's what happened. If you do your job right, it's taking care of itself. And I will find the drugs, because I know exactly who's doing it. But I will wait till the opportune time when they least amount expect it, and then I'll hit them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many times I found guys walking out with TVs and weren't even theirs out to the yard right during chow. I'd be going like, "Where are you going with that TV?" And they're going like, "Huh? Oh, I forgot I had this." And I grab it and look at the license on the back, and it wasn't even theirs.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I started
You forgot you were carrying one of those heavy TVs
across
the yard.
Yep. And, this is one of the flat screens. I found one of the green TVs in D1 that belonged to a guy that was up in A1 that was doing life. I mean, it's amazing what you find, and then you look at people and go, "You didn't see this on the yard?" And then you have guys on the yard that would do 74, and you know exactly who I'm talking about. It's the gentleman. And he would literally sit inside that little shed outside and wouldn't do a dang thing. But he'd blow his whistle all the time. You know what I'm saying? You're either going to
Yeah.
do your job or don't do it. Don't do it halfway, don't do it half-assed. And that's the thing that got me about corrections. I don't care where you go. You got guys that do the minimalist just to get paid and go home. And then when they're told to do their job, they whine and they like take a personal day, or they take a vacation day, or they call in for the next 3 days because they got butt hurt.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I like the accountability that was put on my shift. I was working second shift,
yeah,
especially with the yard officers, because when I wasn't at my permanent post as Alpha Float, I was on the yard. I was one of the yard officers.
yep,
Almost every night,
yep,
and that captain would call us over the radio. Hey, you guys need to get in front of you guys need to get to your posts. Stop hiding. You need to start patting these guys down. They said the worst thing you can do is when these inmates are breaking the rules, get in their pockets. If you get in their pockets, they're gonna go take their business elsewhere. They're not gonna be bringing their business out in the yard.
nope, they won't. And that's what I started doing out there. Well, you were with me on the yard a few times, and
Yeah.
I didn't care who you were. I didn't hold no regrets against anybody or anything against anybody. I'd shake everybody down. I don't care. And you know, and the biggest thing I always talk about, like I tell guys that talk to me now, and they're like, "What's the biggest thing you thought was hilarious?" Like, so I was in A2, and there was 3 new guys that came in that were Hispanic, right?
Yeah.
And they were talking crap about an officer. And the only thing I did, and this is literally all I did, is I went by and I said, "Que paso, eh?" Like, what's up? And instantly went from Spanish to English.
I
And
remember those guys. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yep.
They were in Alpha 1, weren't they?
yep, there was 4 of them.
They were on the. I think they were on the west side, correct?
Yep, they were.
And they
And
were in the back corner of the dorm.
yep. So I
Yeah.
went ahead and went out to the yard one day, and they were going down the yard, and I was coming back from TPU going to A1, and they were on the yard, and they were shaking them down. They were asking them questions, and one of the guys got someone going, no hablo inglés, no hablo inglés. You know, he says, "You don't speak English, huh?" I said, "Hey, ¿qué pasa?" I said, "Por qué?" I said, "Trabajo?" You know, I asked them if they're going to work, and they said, "No, we're not going to work." Instantly fucking talked English, and it was Robo standing there. He said, "What the fuck?" He didn't say a word. He just looked at me and said, "What the fuck?" Because he wasn't getting shit out of him, and then he went right to English. And he was like, I just thought it was funny, you know. I love nabbing guys like that in the simplest way. So, what advice would you give veteran officers dealing with mental health inside the institution?
So, first off, I'm going to say don't let your ego get in the way of getting help for something like this. There's a stigma, especially around males, for coming out and addressing mental health issues because you think you can just fight that on your own. Sometimes you can't. A lot of times you can't. And one of the most dangerous things in the men's prison is our egos.
Oh yeah,
There's
it is.
nothing worse in a male prison than our egos. And that the same goes for our egos when we're dealing with mental health. It's not a sign of weakness. It's something you can't control, but you have to get help for it because if you don't, it will lead to worse things.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you there. It's just, you know, guys go in there like they're on the outside and they're nothing. And then they go on the inside and they act all hard. And
Yeah.
then with these inmates, they can't back it up. Like there was an officer that came in about the same time I did, and he goes, "Oh, I can box, I can fight, I can throw down like I did. I was in high school." And
Yeah.
Park said something to me one day that kind of stuck. And our STG officer looked at me. He goes, "We all used to be somebody, but remember, these guys in here have 24/7 to practice to beat your ass."
Yeah.
And one of the guys that I knew in C1 was a 3-time Golden Glove boxer.
I remember him.
And yeah, so and
I
this,
remember him clearly.
yep, it looked like he totally missed leg day, but man, his upper body was just massive.
Yeah.
And he went ahead and this officer tried to take this guy on. And me and Diet just backed up like, let's see how this turns out. And when he got done, and he got him to cuff up, the guy just cuffed up because he knew it was his fault. But later down the road, we went ahead and we showed him his discovery packet, and this guy was just like his jaw dropped. I didn't know them kind of people were in here. I'm like, yeah? And then I tell people all the time, I said, your STG lead is an MMA champion. And people don't realize that.
Yeah.
And that's where he told me we all used to be somebody. But you got to keep a level head.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I had to learn it real quick when I came in. Being a young male when I came in, can't come in as Billy Badass. As much as you want to, you can't. Because they will not respect that. You come in as Billy Badass, you better be Billy Badass. If you're not Billy Badass, they will see through that real quick. And when they do, you're done. They'll see that you're not who you are, and they will get in your head.
Yeah.
Or they will get to you.
Yeah, they will definitely get into your head. That's what they're there for. They try to get in your head. That's the reason, like I tell people all the time, that's the reason why when you go by, they ask you what time it is. I says, not because they don't have a watch. There's a clock on the wall. They ask you because they want to see what your rounds are and see if they can figure out a pattern. And I told a new CO that was coming in that has never worked, I said, the first time you screw up on the keys, an inmate will tell you what the right key is without even having to touch it.
Yeah. There's one guy, you know the inmate I'm talking about. He's in for killing the sheriff.
Yep.
He's in B2.
Yep.
Nice dude. Never would have guessed his crime. He does what you need him to do, but he's been to all the bad prisons and he's leveled down. Dude knows your keys by like the back of his hand, and you know those yard keys, how they have at least 30 keys on them.
Yeah.
And each key is labeled with at least 3 digits on each one.
Yep.
He'll know which key is which. And I've seen him bamboozle new officers, and I'll just sit back and watch, and I'm like, yep, he's gotcha.
Yeah, see, now, I was one of those guys where I tried to build a rapport where I would, like, you know how we had guys that were renal, we had our diabetics, and we had a lot of diabetics.
Yes,
we had a lot of guys that were renal, and those were the ones that 9 times out of 10 would fall out on you.
Yeah.
And I started looking out for the guys that were renal, always ask them, say, how'd you go today? Did you do your dialysis? How much did they, I would actually ask how much they took off. And did you eat today? And I would ask them that. And the thing is my daughter being type 1 diabetic, I would always keep juice and peanut butter in case something happened. Because if they can't get down there, if this dude dies, it's on me.
Yeah.
People don't understand that, they're an inmate. No, they're people too. And we have to take responsibility for them.
Well, here's the thing. They're inmates, but we're paid to be there. And we are legally obligated to jump in if something happens.
Right.
We're not just there to babysit. We have to actually do something if one of them's getting their ass beat. We got to jump in.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts. If one of them's fallen out for medical emergency, we have to go in. Like, you can be charged with negligence, you can lose your job, and you can be arrested if you don't.
So this inmate already passed away, and I can mention his name, but I don't remember the old guy that was in A1. His name was Gilbert.
Yes, I remember him.
Okay, so every time he would go out, I would go with him, and they thought I was playing favoritism. But however, I knew his condition, and it wasn't being rude or nothing. But I wanted to make sure he was all right, and I would always
wasn't good.
right. His status was not. He was always at OSU. So he went ahead and his heart rate started dropping really bad when he was up at dialysis one day. So I responded, and I asked Carter to go. He goes, why? I said, because Gilbert knows me. I said, because I've dealt with him in A1. I said, if he wakes up, at least he can see somebody he sees rather than swinging out and, at somebody at the EMT. So I started asking him questions that I knew. I said, what year were you born? He said 2003, and I knew there was something wrong, right? So I started dressing him out so we could get him on the ambulance. And as soon as I put him forward to lean on me so I could get his shirt off, his heart rate started getting worse. It's like it started dropping. So I just cut off his clothes, like we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
And we went ahead and just put oranges on him, got him out the door. So they gave him something in the ambulance to go ahead and restart his heart. And trying to put it in balance. So they gave him some of it, and he woke up, and he looked at me and he said, Burns? I said, yeah. I said, is it Burns? He goes, yeah, and he flipped me off. And then I was like, okay, I said, that's good. I said, I knew it was Gilbert then.
Yeah.
And they said, well, why'd he flip you off? I said, because. I said, I look out for him. I said, and anytime there's something going on with my inmates, I know who they are. Like, I can walk around and tell guys what their numbers were when I was there. And it got to the point to where I knew my dialysis guys. And that's where I got the respect from the inmates. Is because that I was looking out for my dialysis, my diabetics. And when you look out for people's medical needs, they respect you quicker than they do if you're going after the drugs. And then as they say, you go after the little stuff first, and the little stuff will become big stuff. And I learned that real quick. And it bothered me a little bit when Gilbert passed away, but then again it didn't because, it was kind of like his own demise. He was kind of doing it to himself. But, neither here nor there, but that's a good example of, people start noticing who you're taking care of or if you're actually doing your job. Like I could go in the yard and I could look at a guy, and I know there was a guy that was in, in A1 who would always pick at his pick line. And he had one pick line where he went and picked on his arm and blood just went everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad. But you know how it is. We got to call a hazmat, so we got to get one of the inmates to come down and clean it. We can't clean it ourselves.
Yeah, we got to get the biohazard team.
Yeah, and people don't understand, why didn't you just clean yourself? Well, we're not allowed to. And we don't. And then we had a guy fall on us that almost died. We thought he was dead because I don't know if you remember about the squad that broke down on the yard when we had to bring him in.
Yeah.
You remember that? Okay, so we had a white sheet off the guy. Like the only thing they had was a flat gurney, and it was and then they had a flat board, and we're like, we're not taking this guy on this because he'll just fall off of it.
Yeah.
So it took 8 of us. We all picked him up in a sheet, picked him up, and took him out. And when they seen the white sheet, everybody instantly thought he was dead. But we did that because it was for his safety. And it just people don't understand how bad overdoses and stuff like that are inside the system until they hear about it and you're just lying. And then, they go in, they actually see it.
Yeah, and that stuff is not going to get to the news as much as people want it to. Those kind of overdoses and stuff that happens in prison.
Yeah.
The news will never hear about it. I will tell you, my last 2 days at Pickaway, last 3 days. Within the last 3 days that I worked at Pickaway, we had 2 fatal overdoses from the same housing unit. And, know what's bad when
okay, let me ask, was it A unit?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go here.
You know, it was bad. You know what's bad when an ambulance has to go on to bad yard,
Yep,
and you know what bad yard is.
yep.
So, and I was on perimeter at that time, listening to the radio traffic, paying attention to everything that's going on around me, watching, seeing what the inmates are doing. Because for whatever reason, Yard decided not to clear the inmates out and put them back in the housing unit. They let them around the ambulance. Drove me crazy. Um, there's a moving vehicle on the yard, and you have inmates, especially in a crazy area like Alpha Unit. You have all that traffic going in and out, and you got these inmates moving around an ambulance.
Yep.
Yeah, that drove me crazy. So we have those two fatal overdoses that happened, I think a day or two apart from each other. Happened in the same unit. Must have been a bad batch of tune or something.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about. I heard about that. Yeah, because you guys had an incident, we had one.
Yeah. Yep, you guys had... Yeah, and then there was 1 week earlier in Bravo 1.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, that one wasn't good. And those guys in Bravo 1 shouldn't be doing drugs in the first place, because that's where all the guys with health conditions go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because this is the thing. That's one thing I liked about B1. They weren't going to do anything, bring anything in, do any drugs, because they didn't want to lose that air-conditioned medical area.
Yeah.
You knew crap wasn't going to happen.
Well, the problem was what I noticed on my shift, and yeah, I was alpha float, so I was trying to take care of my own unit. I had my hands full with alpha unit alone, but you have people that were coming from C unit going into B unit because they know B unit is the spot to go. They know that's, hey, this is a cool place to go. To air conditioned. They got their. That's where we caught a hooch operation one time. Like, it wasn't just a regular hooch operation because there's hooch all over the institution, but it was a stuff. You know when they were making the clear stuff?
Yeah.
We caught one of the operations going on in there. I'm like, how is this going on under our noses?
Yeah, so I went ahead and I went to, when I was in training, I went to A1. And when I got COVID, a lot of people got it, but when I got mine, my smell went, but it came back tenfold. Like, I can smell everything.
Yeah.
So when I walked by a unit, I could smell hooch. And I could just, like, I went up one day and I probably found 6 bags of hooch in A1. I pissed that officer off. So I went and found 6 bags, but the one I found that really still impressed me, and I wrote him a ticket, but I was just like, wow. So what he did is he sewed the bottom of his jacket and sewed the front and had the bag fermenting inside where it was like harnessed up, hanging up, so it looked like a regular jacket. And then it had just a wire running into it, which is what threw it off. And I was like, something's wrong. Because it looked like a headphone wire. Like, oh, maybe he just has his headphones in there. And that's what he was trying to disguise it as. So I walked up and I poked it, and it was hard. And when I opened it up and pulled it down, it was blue hooch.
Wow. Blue hooch. What are they using to make that?
You know the water packets they get, the Hawaiian Punch?
Yeah.
That's what he used. And I had to laugh. So I'm one of them guys. I make them poke their own bags. I make them pour them out. And
yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite punishment. I don't even write him a ticket. On third shift, I used to, whenever I catch him with hooch, I'd take him outside. It was more of a, like, hey, I'm going to make you dump your own supply kind of thing. I'd take him out to the storm drain, and they'd have their guys watching out the window as we pour away their supply.
Okay, you're going to think I'm really bad, so you think you're bad. You've been to C unit, right?
Yeah.
You've seen how the showers are between the dorms, right?
Yeah.
I would take the hooch and go pour it. I would make them pour it in the showers.
Oh, so now they got to live with the smell in the shower.
Mm-hmm. I was bad. And then the porters would come up all the time. Man, can I go clean that up? I'm like, no. Nope, you're going to wait till the next shift. And the bad thing is if I caught it like at, 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, you got to think they're going to have to live with that crap for 6 hours.
Yeah.
So I didn't find much hooch in my unit. I found more drugs than anything. So my guys were just like, we're not going to be dealing with this guy for hooch. So
One time I was on third shift, and it was a Sunday night football night. Um, football game's over, and I'm doing my rounds on the ranges or in the dorm, and like I smell that hooch smell, but I knew I was getting close, and then it exploded right there in the cubicle, got everybody messed up. Like
man,
I had no idea what had happened.
wow,
I
that's
guess they
crazy.
didn't deflate the bag and it just exploded.
Jeez,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
one of those four guys in that cubicle was not happy because he was not involved with the manufacture of it. So he was barking at them, ordering them to clean all of this shit up.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So you're young enough. I mean, you're way younger than me. So where do you see yourself in 20 years?
Um. Honestly, I see myself either still in corrections or working another faction of law enforcement or first responder. But I
Mm-hmm.
see myself in a supervisor position.
Yeah,
Um, I don't see myself staying as a regular rank because I want to go be a supervisor. That's what I want to do. That's my ultimate goal.
yeah, yeah. And as we both know, that there are certain people that need to be in supervisory positions and certain people that don't. And we know the one supervisor that we can all identify with that doesn't need to be, that was on first and is now, I think, on third shift. But, yeah, it's. Hey, I know you've only been in corrections, like you said, 4 years, right?
Uh, Almost like nearly 3 years.
Nearly 3 years. So, have you lost any fellow COs to mental health issues, or, well, we know my incident we all knew about, but
Yeah.
if you had any incidents like that, or I know you guys had one on second shift, didn't you? That had an issue.
Um, if we did, I didn't hear about it.
Yeah,
Um, no, I did not have any incidents, luckily, and I'm very grateful to have not had that experience, and I hope I never do have that experience.
yeah. Now, did you guys get CIT training down at CAT?
Um, oh, CTA,
Yeah,
yeah.
CTA.
So they gave us the option to sign up for CIT. I did. They never called back, and then, after let's be 100% on this. After a little too many uses of force on my hand, uh, a lieutenant told me I had to go sign up for CIT. Said, "Yeah, we need you to go sign up for CIT."
Yeah,
Which, for people that don't know, CIT is the crisis team
yeah,
that basically talks inmates down, talks people down from doing bad things. It teaches you how to talk and negotiate.
yeah. It's crisis intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I was the same way. I was in the same field. Like they told me to go ahead and go for it. I didn't go. They didn't call me. Like I was one of the first people to sign up. I didn't get
Yeah.
called. They said, "Well, you don't need to go. You're not qualified." I said, "Okay, whatever." I said, "You don't have any experience." I said, "Well, you don't need experience to go CIT." Well, we want people with experience. Like, okay. And literally 2 weeks later, the incident happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now what do you say? And then Faf looked at me. He goes, "Well, you got more experience than most of these guys in here do now, even that have done the training." And I'm going like that. That just made no sense to me at all. Like you want me to do the sign up for the training, I sign up, you tell me no, and then after I have an incident, which signifies as more than they teach you in CIT, then all of
Yeah.
a sudden I have experience. That literally makes my brain hurt.
It it does not get more real than the incidents you dealt with. Because you're not in a prison, you're not in a controlled environment. You're in public. You have an inmate, and you have a firearm. That can go horribly wrong real fast.
Right.
So I feel that you handled that situation perfectly, uh, despite what goes on in the rumor mill. Everybody went home alive that night.
Yeah.
So that is all that matters.
Yeah, well, you know how they say other people see it other ways, but yeah, I mean, the decompression alone is what gets you because you don't think about things while it's going on, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll probably hit you like, what was it, days later,
Oh yeah, it
weeks
did.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got calls left and right when I went back to shift because they wanted me to take admin days off, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't get paid for admin days. Why you want me to take admin days?
Yeah.
And that was where the part where being hard headed
Yeah.
and thinking I got to grind through it,
Yeah.
and
The
but
ego and pride thing.
right, and I got calls like left and right, guys coming up and checking on me, see if I was okay, how everything went, and then that's when the rumor mill started, and I'm like, that's when I started getting depressed about people telling me what happened when I was the only one in the room with the inmate and the guy.
You know what's crazy? This rumor mill thing. I didn't believe how bad a rumor mill could get until I started in the prison, because it is like a high school.
Oh, it is.
In both institutions I worked at too, it's as equally as bad. And you know what's the thing is, sometimes because the inmates they listen all day long. You'll hear stuff from the inmates first before you hear it from other officers.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy about it. You got how much? What was our population? Almost 1,800 guys.
I think we were when I left. Yeah, we were close to 1,800. Yeah, because we can house. I think we were only supposed to house. I think what was it like 1,300, but we were like way over.
Yeah, 1,800 guys, and we ran shift with 30, 40 officers.
Yep.
And you didn't hear a single thing from your other officers, but somehow one of the inmates just comes up, hey, I heard this. This is what I heard. And then you find out that that's what's been going on in the rumor mill. You're like, oh, the inmates are a part of this now.
Yeah.
There's nothing more professional, or nothing that's more non-professional than getting an inmate involved in a fucking rumor mill.
Right. Yep.
And I've seen this everywhere I've been. And it's not just the rumor mill, it's personal information too. Like, inmates will obtain personal information about other officers and
Yep.
stuff that's going on in the jail, in the prison,
Yep.
because some officers run their mouth a little
Yeah.
too much in front of these guys.
Right. Yeah.
And these guys, yeah.
Like I went ahead and I got in the rumor mill and it kind of ticked me off. Like I've been married for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
And I won't ever veer away from my wife. I won't. And I don't know if you remember Miss AK. She was a D1 officer for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she went ahead and she was having problems in there. She was brand new, just came on, and I was working over, and she had some problems, and she didn't know how to handle it. And you know how guys in there, they will harass women, they'll talk down to them. So I went ahead and I went in. I walked by an area. I found a few inmates that were in there that weren't supposed to be in there. And I told her, I said, get those two inmates out of here and shake that guy down. He goes, why? I said, I bet you $10 he's doing tattoos. She goes, really? I said, yeah. I said, I bet you go and get him. Sure enough, she found 2 tattoo guns, a regular needle that had what they found out was liquid meth, and they went ahead and she took the credit for it. She goes, well, you found it. I said, nope. I said, you take the credit. You write the DRC 1000. I said, that will get you respect from these inmates. I said, they won't overdo it again. So she did it and whatever. And I told and there was a few of the African guys that heard about it in the yard. And they respected me after that because I let her take, the whole thing. And,
Yeah.
and then within like a week, all of a sudden I was dating her. I'm like going, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? This is the rumor mill you guys have?
Yeah.
And that's why I disassociate myself with people in there. I just,
Yeah.
like, you go to help a fellow officer, and it's a female, and all of a sudden you're dating them. Or you're having sex with them. I'm like, really? How old are you guys? You guys 2?
That's the way it is. I can tell you one thing. I've never been more angry during a shift, and I had to bite my tongue, and I had to hold it in because I was training somebody. I was training this 18-year-old girl. She just came in, and I was on yard with her. I was showing her how to do yard.
Right.
Now, inmates avoid me. They avoid me. They don't want contact with me. I was a little bit of an asshole at Pickaway. I try not to be that way, but I was. So they avoid me. All of a sudden, I'm walking around with this pretty girl showing her what to do, and I'm getting all this attention from inmates. Just all these inmates coming up to me wanting to ask me questions. And I'm like, okay, what is going on here? I'm showing her what to do. They're trying to talk to her. And then I didn't feel it was my place to step in when I should have. I actually should have done this.
Right.
When they started making remarks.
Right.
And I was like, I told her, I said, you're an officer. You can do something about this. You don't let them call you honey. You don't let them call you sweetheart. You don't let them call you that, this or that. It's
right.
CO this, CO that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And she, unfortunately, did not take my advice. But it made me angry because one of those guys that was creeping around was a known serial rapist up in Alpha 2. And I wanted nothing more than to throw his ass in the hole. But I did not want to step out of place because I wanted to give her the chance to correct that. She did not correct it.
Yeah.
And it would have been too late for me to correct it. You can't. When something happens, you got to correct it then and there. You can't come back and do it. Because if you come back and do it, you're going to lose a lot of respect.
Right. And vice versa. There's officers that act way too hard in there. And there was a female officer that was on second shift, and I think you probably remember her. She had problems with everybody. And I was out in the yard one day, and I was down over in front of C1, so I hollered at the C float to come help. And she literally came out of C1 to the yard off of her post and asked me why I need her C float, yelling out to the yard.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah, and then I went in the office and they tried reaming my butt for asking for a float. And then I told them what happened, and I said something, and I said, so for one officer, we don't follow policy. I see how that goes.
No, we don't do anything in this department alone. They drill that in your head at CTA. If you need assistance, you get assistance there. Even if it's not emergent. Even if it's just hey, I'd feel more comfortable if I had this other officer here.
Right. Right.
That is why we have floats.
Yeah, always CYA. And if you're afloat on second shift, as you know, you're on the yard.
Yes.
The only time you go to inside the unit is if there's an incident or if you're doing a round.
Yeah.
That's the only time you go in. The officer runs the unit. And that's how it was even on first shift and on third shift it was a lot different. So, but yeah, I totally agree. You know, it's one of those deals to where, as me and Zimmerman talked before, that act as who you are on the outside, on the inside. You get more respect with COs and with inmates. And as you said, that word "no" is the hardest thing for an inmate or for an officer to learn.
Yeah, because you can turn a no into a yes. You
Yeah,
cannot tell an inmate, yes, you can do this, and then come back and say, no, you cannot do this. Because
right,
it makes you seem as you're inconsistent. And as you know, our motto is be firm, fair, and consistent.
right.
You have to be consistent or else you will not be respected. Once you lose respect, you might as well leave your job at that point because no one's going to listen to you.
Yeah, because the inmates are there every day, and if it happens to one inmate where you lose respect from one, they're all going to hear about it.
Yeah.
And with officers, it's like, you know, the only way you'll find out if you've lost respect is you have a signal 3 or something go on and nobody shows up.
Yes.
And people don't understand that. You know, they think, you know, yeah, we aren't police officers. We aren't. We're recognized as first responders. And as I've said before, you know,
Yep.
with mental health and with incidents like that, the only thing we have is literally is House Bill 308 to help us, and then we get workman's comp for mental health that we can use up to a year. And that's only one time.
Yeah.
One time. Your whole career. Like, I was off for a year on workman's comp because of a double knee surgery. That's the only workman's comp and the only time off I get my entire career.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, if all of a sudden I have to go ahead and, you know, be out for another injury, it's on me.
And another thing that Zimmerman said on the previous podcast about 20 and out. How much that makes the most sense.
Yep.
Why are we spending 30 years in prison? We are basically, I know we're getting paid, but we are basically doing time with these guys every day that we're in there.
Yep.
Why are we spending life sentences in prison? We're already crazy enough to go in there free-willed, but we're going to spend 30 years in there deteriorating our mental health, our physical health, all kinds of stuff. And let's face it, correctional officers do not get recognized. They are the forgotten part of the criminal justice chain.
Yeah.
Because the public does not see what we do.
Agreed.
They don't see what we do. And with these body cameras that we are now wearing, they will see. And they won't like it. Not what we do, but what we deal with.
Yeah.
Because, and this isn't putting down police or anybody else, but there is no other job like this.
Oh, there's not. I mean, yeah, in respect to police, I mean, they deal with their own incident. I mean, we don't have guns where I'm having to go shoot somebody or, you know, we have to draw it on somebody.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about getting shot.
Yeah. But we're with the prisoners that they put in jail for things like that.
Yeah.
Sure, they don't have a gun anymore, but man, I tell you what, they will turn on you and they will kick your butt and they will have their buddies help.
Yeah. We're not police officers, but to them we're still 12. We're still 12 to them.
Yep. Yeah, I went ahead and I busted a bunch of guys for queuing. And they started getting mad at me because I'd walk into a unit and I'd yell 12 before they would.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, what the heck? And I'd yell, and then all of a sudden I'd yell, First Street, second, before they would. And then I'd yell, now this guy's fired. I said, he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. And literally the next day he'd have a different guy. So
one time I was working Alpha Unit, and this was when I first started at PCI. This was probably a month after I got out of the academy again, because I went through CTA twice.
Alpha 1, so somebody was calling out?
It was, I don't remember if it was, I think it was...
Short, white dude, red hair?
So I was in... Oh, no, hold on, I know who you're thinking of.
Yeah.
So I was in Alpha 2 for the night,
Uh-huh.
and one dude just kept screaming in my ear every time I came in. He's sitting on that stupid trash can by the door, by the crash gates.
Right.
It was pissing me off. I'm like, you know what? I got you. Instead of doing my staggered rounds in 30-minute intervals, I came back every 5 minutes. And eventually, I bamboozled the guy, and I got him confused because he went up to go take a break, and he missed a round, and I ended up catching a guy on a cell phone. And I took the cell phone, I took the guy out with me, cuffed him up, sent him to the hole. And when I came back, that dude's face was busted up. And I took him out too, cuffed him up, sent him out as well. And then I had another guy, so I ended up sending 3 people to the hole. I had a third guy jumped in, decided to 6'5". And I said, you scream in my fucking ear one more time, we're going to have an issue. And he decided to press the issue. And he said, or what? So I put him on the wall, cuffed him up as well. I kept the yard busy that night. But on third shift, I had to write 3 separate incident reports, cuffed up all these guys, sent them all out. One of them got all busted up because... And it turns out the third dude I cuffed up was the one that actually busted him up.
That's normally how it goes.
So... But I don't care if you yell 12, but what you're not going to do is scream in my fucking ear.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, have some respect at least.
Be respectful, and I was new to the institution. They knew that, so I had to come down a little hard on them. But yeah, I found a cell phone. Shouldn't have been that big of a deal because there are, as you know, there are cell phones everywhere in that prison.
Oh yeah, it's bad. I mean, like what they tell us, the last stat they said that in every prison there's normally like $1.2 million worth of drugs in any institution at any given time.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And the funny thing is the cell phones that come in and the arrays that they come in at, that's even crazier.
Yeah.
And then the stuff that gets thrown over the wall or over the fence and stuff like that, it's just, it's insane. And we're the ones that have to worry about that and find the drugs. And then we have to send to Ohio State Patrol. And the funny thing is, people don't understand that. We deal with Ohio State Patrol.
Yeah.
And
because we are state property.
Right, we are state property. And as you know, when you're doing the outer perimeter, who comes and checks on us every night? State Patrol. Right, they do their rounds. They come and check on us, make sure we're awake. And it's not like we sit there and we go to sleep at our unit because we're not allowed to, because that's considered abandoning your post.
Yeah.
But like I said, there are people out there. Well, I got a buddy that does corrections, so I know what you're going through. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Same way with military. Oh, I got a buddy that's in the military. I know what you're going through. No, you don't. I can't even say that. I got a good friend I talk to all the time here on Facebook and on Messenger. Who lives in another state, and he's retired, but I don't say I know what he's going through, because I've never been in the military.
Yeah. So, I'd like to bring up, PCI was not my first institution. It was actually CRC.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed working there. That was a great place to work. The morale was low, understandably, because of how low staffed they were.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the way that prison was ran. It's not ran like it used to be, where it was all military-like, but it was still ran pretty well. I spent months getting mandated back to back to back. You know how it is doing those 16s so many days in a row. You just can't do it. And I do not like to back down from mandates. I don't do it.
Right. I'm the same way. If they want to mandate me, fine. But I want you to at least, I get to pick my post at least.
Yeah. And eventually my mental health caught up to me, and I did something I wish I hadn't done. I called for a supervisor to my unit, said I would like to be relieved from my post. I am leaving this job. And I did. And supervisor brought me up to front entry, took my man down, system and my ID, and I left. And then, but before that, there was an incident like a month earlier where I was given the phone number that we were given
Yeah.
to call myself. I called that number because my mental health was just at an all-time low. It was not good. I was dealing with a new environment. For one, I've never worked corrections before. Still getting used to it. Yeah, it's rough. You got guys that are gonna try you. Um, we had you see a lot of crazy shit, especially at CRC when you're dealing with the RTU, the guys that do self-harm and all that.
Oh yeah.
So you'll see stuff that'll be in your nightmares, and it really wasn't that stuff. It was maybe perhaps a lack of sleep and uh, just the overwhelming uh, and said, I want to give corrections a try again. So I went to Pickaway. I took care of my mental health better there, uh, but I still ended up having certain issues.
Right.
So things that I did, especially towards the very end of my job at Pickaway, I drank a lot.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing with a lot of people that like a lot of COs that are in the system. They turn to drinking.
But I wasn't drinking to heal any kind of pain. I just wanted to have fun, you know. And I would go to this bar all the time, and I was just throwing them back. Eventually, beer didn't do anything for me. I never went to liquor because I don't have a good history with liquor.
Yeah.
As my personal friends would know, I am not good with liquor. Um, but beer, it was not doing anything. It wouldn't do anything to me. I was drinking 6 packs almost every night, and it just wouldn't do anything. Maybe it's the Irish blood. I don't know, but it wasn't doing shit to me. Uh, I even started I almost was up to 12 packs, and then I stopped when everything went down at Pickaway with that incident. Um,
Yeah, the rash realization got you.
yeah, and I said I got to stop. So now I barely drink at all, and I'll only drink on special occasions, and I'm in full control of it too. Um, I'm very blessed that I'm the kind of person to be able to do that because I come from a family of recovering alcoholics, and I understand for them it is very hard, and it sucks that I kind of have it a little easier because I just went straight off of it and nothing happened. I didn't even experience withdrawals or anything.
Right.
But that was something that I was doing at Pickaway, and it's not like I would show up to work drunk or with any alcohol in my system. It was something I purely do on my own time. But I felt like I was doing. I don't know why I was drinking a lot, but I do feel it had a lot to do with, you know, the emotional stresses inside of prison that they're not really in your face.
Right.
It's not like, hey, I'm feeling this. No, it's just this steady feeling that's in the back of your brain. And especially when you come in and you have and you're getting used to the force and stuff, and you're now in a fight. You never know when you're going to need to fight in prison. That's the thing. That's the worst part. You never know when you're going to have to fight, and you have to be prepared prepared to fight. And if you're not prepared, then there's something wrong there.
I agree. And I tell people all the time, you said, you might better be prepared to fight. I said, at some point in time, you're going to have to do it. And they're like, well, I can't fight. I'm like, well, you're going to learn.
Yeah.
Like,
and if you can't fight, they give us OC, which, for the people that are watching, don't understand. OC is Ori as in capsaicin.
Yeah, just basically. It's basically just really, really hot pepper sauce put into a can.
It's very strong pepper spray. It's police strength pepper spray, which I don't even know why they call it police strength, because police don't even use it that much. We use it way more than them.
Huh.
No, we put that stuff in Mark 9's, the bear spray cans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some nasty stuff. I don't know how many times you've had to run into something where it's been deployed, but it's not fun.
Oh, I've walked into it, but the thing is we've actually gotten to the point to where, I mean, on our shift, like Zimmerman, Kung Fu Panda, and a few other ones would say, at least that if you deploy it, at least say it over the radio so we know what we're walking into.
Yeah, and I've said it every single time I've sprayed. I've said OC deployed on the radio. And I actually got one of my guys that I work with in county. I sprayed a dude in our unit, and I called over the radio, OC deployed. And after everything was said and done, this officer was like, I like how you did that. I was like, what? He's like, I like how you called OC deployed over the radio. I was like, yeah, I'm just used to it. What we always do. Because it felt like just an old day at the prison, you know? And the OC doesn't really affect me anymore. I don't sneeze, might cough a little, but my nose doesn't run. It's kind of weird. I built like a tolerance to it.
Yeah, the thing is a lot of people don't understand the difference between Saber and Fox. The Saber's like the weakling of Fox. Fox hurts. Yeah. Like, it hurts bad.
Saber will do more to your lungs, but Fox will create a burn that you couldn't even understand. It's rated at 5.3 Scoville units hot versus Saber, which is rated at 2 million Scoville units hot. It's still very hot stuff, but Fox, that's the stuff we just switched over to Saber, but at a point we were allowed to carry our own stuff, and I was carrying Fox, and I wasn't just carrying regular Fox, I was carrying the Fox 1.4, which is their most powerful unit.
Oh, yeah.
It melts through styrofoam. It's the only pepper spray on the market that has the ability to melt through styrofoam.
Yeah,
that tells you anything.
My daughter walks like from here to Speedway. It's only 2 blocks, but I bought her a Fox pepper spray.
Smart idea.
And I told her straight up, I said, you're better off trying to spray yourself or spray it on your finger and put it in the corner of your eye and just get used to it. Say, because once it hits that air, it's going to hit you.
Yeah, I would recommend getting a cardboard box, deploying it into a cardboard box, and then putting your head close to it. Just a level 3 exposure. You don't need to, put it in your eyes. I've been there. I've done that. I've had it deployed on me. It's not good. No way. I've had Saber in my eyes, and I've had Fox in my eyes. By far, Fox is the worst to get in your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I would agree. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up on here.
Right.
Well, that wraps it up today, folks. Thank you for listening to Thank you for Zach coming on to our show and for coming on to the Signal 3 podcast today. Remember that it's okay to talk about your problems and dealing with mental health professionals whom you are comfortable with to get the help you need. Support your fellow first responders and extend a helping hand even when they say no. It may be the right or last chance you get. Also, again, mentioning Darby Creek Counseling here in London, Ohio for all your mental health needs. Stay tuned for new episodes weekly. Thank you, and have a blessed day. And thank you, Zach.